Thanks back to the EFF celebrations of its 8th anniversary. Its leader, Julius Malema, calling on President Cyril Ramaphosa to remove members of the SANDF, which have been deployed in some parts of the country to quell the violence.
We want to challenge Ramaphosa to remove the soldiers from the streets and confront the people of South Africa. He must stop hiding behind the uniform of the soldiers and confront the reality that our people are confronted with on a daily basis. If you are a man, Ramaphosa, and you know you have been elected legitimately by the people of South Africa who love you, and that you did not buy the presidency through the money of the white monopoly capital, then go and speak to the masses on the ground. You cannot threaten them with the soldiers. You have admitted unwittingly that you are an illegitimate leader when you deployed soldiers on civilian matters.
Well, that part of the EFF's 8th birthday celebrations, it's been a party often credited with shaking up our politics. But how do we assess its impact over the last 8 years? Professor Barry Hanyane is a political analyst at the University of North West. Professor, good evening to you and thank you for your time on The Pulse tonight. I'd like to suggest that perhaps the first place the EFF had an impact was in Parliament. Before 2014, there was a secret party known as the Sleepists. They had quite a lot of members sometimes on their benches. After 2014, there was no more sleeping in Parliament.
Good day, Stephen, Kathy, your viewers. It was the case indeed. But again, one needs to trace this influence way back post the ANC Youth League days. The euphoria that we saw leading towards the establishment of the party itself, and then of course shaking up, as you say, Parliament a little bit. Despite the kind of fresh approach that they brought to Parliament, their attire, their radical stance overall on issues of policy, on issues that affected the running of Parliament itself, and as you say, shaking the governing party to the core. Not only the governing party, but also the other opposition benches, in this case the DA. We've seen some raucous experiences and situations involving all three and perhaps other senior members in Parliament. So yes, they brought some energy, they brought a new approach in dealing with the day-to-day issues of Parliament. And what is interesting is if I can point one particular interesting issue, is how they tackled the issue of financial illicit flows, when seemingly most of the MPs on the other side of Parliament were actually in the dark in relation to this issue. So yes, they have indeed made their mark in Parliament.
Going into the 2019 elections, the EFF had momentum. How do you assess that momentum now? I mean, in the last couple of years, I think some people certainly have associated the top leadership of the EFF with the VBS scandal, rightly or wrongly. It's mainly an ANC scandal in a way, really, but the EFF leadership have become embroiled in that. Julius Malema himself faces several court cases. Has that slowed down the momentum, or is it just impossible to assess, or do you think it's picking up momentum?
Look, I think as a party, they need to really reassess the role that they played, especially at local government level. For them to have been bestowed that title of being kingmakers, especially in metros which were hung, I don't think there was political value, so to speak, in that. I would have loved to see the EFF being challenged and challenging itself to say, can we govern in few municipalities where we can demonstrate our prowess on issues of governance, and most importantly, demonstrate to the nation that we have leaders of tomorrow who will be able to take either municipalities or provincial governments, and of course eventually the country forward in terms of leadership. There is still that huge vacuum that I suspect the EFF needs to fill and make sure that in the end they can demonstrate to all and sundry that they have what it takes to provide leadership. As things stands, I'm afraid they haven't shaken off that idea that they are at times an issue party. They rise to the occasion as and when there are issues that are faced in the country. These issues can be broader issues within the polity or issues that are of sensitive nature, but then it ends there. I would like to see them providing where it needs be policy impetus, more discussions around policy issues, and why not put a shadow government on the side as a way to demonstrate to the nation that they have their confidence and of course they have the capacity within their ranks to provide leadership.
For any political party, one of the key tasks and one of the most difficult tasks is to grow new leaders. And the problem with that is that you end up growing new leaders who challenge you. And we see this in the ANC to an extent all the time. The Democratic Alliance has often battled to grow new leaders. I mean, for the EFF, you automatically think Julius Malema. You automatically think Nico Floyd Shivambu. Who else do you automatically think of who's seen as a sort of growing leader? Do you think it's achieving that task of growing new leadership? Without that, it won't sustain itself.
Another weakness of the EFF, but not surprising in a continent where the issues of personality cult in various countries, polity as well, is characterized by some kind of giving too much credence to certain individuals. So the question here is what happens if something would remove the two leaders, the president and the deputy? Who is likely to fill in their shoes? I think there's a huge vacuum there. And unfortunately, we are not hearing of a deliberate succession plan. Instead, the opposite is true. And that opposite says all those who in the last few years have been critical in the way the EFF has somewhat developed into a political formation have either resigned or have been associated with some kind of suspicions of being purged. If one can make two examples here, in Gauteng, Madam Mandisa Mashiko resigned under cloudy circumstances, eventually giving reasons why. And then, of course, you go back, Magdalene Monsami, former Treasurer General. These are brains, these are women who, in my view, could have contributed immensely in ensuring and cultivating that culture of strong leadership within the EFF.
Professor Barry Hanyane, thanks so much. To appreciate